This is Talk Business and Politics with Roby Brock.
And welcome to the program. We are grateful for you to be with us this morning. Thank you so much for tuning in. I am joined by Mike Preston. He's the Executive Director of the Arkansas Economic Development Commission. And when the governor is globe-trotting around the world, you're providing the assists for all the buckets that he's making, I think.
Oh, I try my best to.
It's a pretty good analogy, because you guys hang out on the basketball court.
We find some time to squeeze in basketball when we can. That's right.
All right. What's your position? Are you forward? Are you power forward, guard?
Wherever the governor tells me to play.
Gotcha. So you're setting screens, is what you're telling me. Let's talk about some great success here for Arkansas in recent weeks. Beef exports and rice exports have been opened back up in China. You guys have been to China a few times. The governor has been there advocating on behalf of two pretty big players in that space, Tyson Foods, Riceland Foods. Does the governor deserve some credit for this?
I certainly think he does. I think both trips that we made to China, we made it part of that mission to make sure we got that message across, and we took it all the way up to the Ministry of Agriculture to make sure they understand about the need to opening the market up to the U.S. and really specifically Arkansas, because we want to get our beef, we want to get our rice in there. So, well, it was a combination of many years and many folks. It didn't hurt that the governor was there making the case in person for Arkansas and pointing to companies, like you said, like Riceland and Tyson Foods and what a difference that makes. And for a Tyson who's already there and has a presence there, they got that message.
Yeah. Tell me what the potential ramifications could be. I mean, do you have any estimates in terms of how it could impact Arkansas? Does this just really keep those companies more viable in these international markets?
It keeps them more viable. If you look at the consumption of rice in China, I think all we consume in Arkansas in a year, they would consume or grow in Arkansas in a year, they could consume in 2 weeks in China's time. So it's not going to be that much in terms of their market, but it helps us out so much. It'll be a specialty rice. It's like you're going to a very high-end store to buy a specialty rice. That's what they're going to have, the U.S. rice. It's a high-end U.S. rice that's coming in and is going to sell in China. So we'll be able to sell, it probably won't be until the end of this year, early of next year, we'll get the rice products in there, but it's going to help our farmers out here.
What do you think was the tipping point or the turning point? I mean, what made it kind of get over this hurdle that it has been more than a decade in the making in some of the instances?
Well, I think that that hearing it from someone like Governor Hutchinson, who represents such a strong agriculture state, time and time again, and sitting down with the Ministry of Agriculture. But then some credit has to be given to the Trump administration and the pressure that they've put and the relationship that they've built with China. I think he and President Xi had good meetings when they were there in Mar-a-Lago, and they talked a lot about trade, and we need to make sure that it's a two-way street and that they're opening it up to our markets as well. So I do get to give some credit to the administration there as well for them to be able to push the ball across the finish line.
The governor has told me a couple of weeks ago that his next overseas trip, probably later this year, maybe first of next year, is going to be back to China, to the Far East. What's going to be the mission of that trip? Is it going to be agriculture? Is it going to be recruiting more manufacturing here? Is it going to be something different?
It'll be a hybrid of both of those things, and obviously we would have continued to push on the rice and the beef, but having that done, obviously we'll go and say our thanks, and hopefully that we can continue to open new markets and make sure that we're representing our agriculture industry in China. But we're always looking for more manufacturing to come here. We've been very successful in the last 14, 15 months of bringing Chinese investment into the U.S. So there's always more projects that we're looking at and we'd like to bring back to Arkansas.
So you're hinting to me that there may be some more projects beyond Forest City and Arkadelphia?
We'd love to see them. Hey, we've got TNU on right here in Little Rock that'll be opening in November. So great projects coming out of China. And that's the market's hot right now. They're looking to invest outside of China. They look at the U.S. as a stable market to do it. It's easy for California to sit there on the West Coast and come in and get that trade in. We have to go out and take that message of Arkansas, a state that's in the middle of the country. We need to make sure they know where we're at.
Let's talk about open investment policy. And the governor also said that when he came back from Europe, you've talked about this on the record too, that there's some uncertainty with some of our European allies there about Arkansas being open for business, and really just the administration's stance on free trade and renegotiating a lot of deals. Tell me what was the message that was communicated to you guys?
Sure. Well, there's concern. Obviously, there's a lot of tough language in the campaign on trade, and that makes people nervous. And then you go right into to the administration. We're already looking at redoing NAFTA. So there's a lot of concern and kind of hesitation where people are maybe pushing pause for a minute and say, let's see how this all shakes out. So we want to make sure our message is, hey, as a state, as the governor of a state, we're going into the Europe market where we already have great foreign direct investment coming in to say, look, we continue to be open for investment. We welcome your investment. We have 46,000 Arkansans who are employed by companies who are owned that are foreign direct investment directly. So we have it here in Arkansas. We know how to work with these companies. We continue to recruit them. We just want to make that message that we're open for business.
What do you do with the piece of paper that the governor signed about this open investment policy? Is that something that you are sending around to business prospects? Is that something you keep in your back pocket when you go and have these one-on-one meetings?
Right. Well, it's something we keep in our back pocket. We use it, to promote ourselves. Certainly, we want to put that out there. But it sends a message to companies like L'Oreal or Dassault, some companies that are owned by a French company, to say, hey, we support these companies. We want to see your growth. We know you have a decision to make when it comes to investing in markets. We want you to continue to invest in this Arkansas market.
Are you worried about NAFTA being renegotiated?
I think it's time to, as they say, update NAFTA. There's a lot of proponents on both sides of this thing. I think what we're seeing is people, as I said, sitting it out until they see what happens on NAFTA. That's maybe going to slow down some of the project load on the companies who are looking between the U.S., Canada, and Mexico, and what is that going to mean? Certainly it needs to be modernized. I think there's components of it that, when it was first written, wasn't factoring in e-commerce and other things like that. We need to modernize it, but make sure that we're not hurting trade here in Arkansas.
Does it get to a point where there is a time frame where you're like, hey guys, let's get this thing done because it is holding some things up? We're not there yet?
I don't want to put a date on it just yet. We're not there yet, but yeah, certainly soon we'd like to see this done so we can get moved on. I'd like to get moving on with my job as an economic developer, make sure that we're bringing these projects into the state, not sitting on the sidelines waiting to see what happens on NAFTA.
All right, Mike Preston with the Arkansas Economic Development Commission. Always good to sit down with you.
Thanks, Roby.
Keep working on that hoop.
I'm going to try.
There, all right. We're back with more right after this word from our sponsors.